pressure belt, unstable humid air mass. And then the dry air mass that brings in dry air is the tropical continental air mass. How you differentiate it is that the tropical maritime air mass, you see that it comes in from the oceans, it comes in from the oceans that surround Africa. Meanwhile, the tropical maritime air mass comes in from the oceans, that's the southeast or southwest wind, and then the tropical continental, which is dry, which is the high pressure belt that is stable and dry, comes in from the upper part of Africa, the upper part of Africa. That's an easy way to differentiate it. You will see it on page 54 of your atlas. Now, these two air masses meet at a point that is called the Intertropical Convergence Zone. It is depicted in the PDF document I gave to you. Now, they meet at the Intertropical Convergence Zone. And that is like so if you look at where these two air masses meet, you can actually draw a line around where the two air masses meet, and that gives you the ITCZ zone. Now, that ITCZ zone oscillates between the north and the south, in the north and the south, between latitude 20 degrees north and latitude 20 degrees south. You see that on page 54 of your atlas, okay? So that means that the location of the Intertropical Convergence Zone is dependent on the meeting points where those two air masses meet. Now, in July, the ITCZ extends across Africa at the southern margins of the Sahara. It extends across Africa at the southern margins of Africa in July, at the southern margins of the Sahara. That is close to the north, around the Sahara Desert. And then rainfall is high south of the ITCZ, that is south of the ITCZ, and that is due to the tropical maritime air mass. Whereas in the north is dry because it is dominated by the northeast trade wind, So in July, the southern part, the ITCZ is located at the southern margins of the Sahara, and then the south of the ITCZ, dominated by the maritime, tropical maritime air mass, will have rain. Meanwhile, the northern part will be dry because of the air mass that is dominating that area. Now, in January, the ITCZ now is parallel to the Guinea coast and then turns southwards and now trends northeast across Zimbabwe to Madagascar. So you see that it forms something like it's not really an S shape, more or less like an S shape. You see that in the document I attached. So that means again that the tropical maritime now will influence the areas to the south again. We'll have high rainfall, but because the tropical continental will dominate most of Africa at that time, you have the dry season at that time. And that irregular movement influences rainfall. Irregular movement. Any problem? Any problem? I can't hear you. Hello? I can't hear you. What is the problem? Yes, what is the problem? I can't hear you. What is the issue? You can't hear me very well. Okay. Very high. I don't know why you can't hear me. Please unmute your phone, so your speakers, so that others can hear. I'm shouting here. I don't know how else I'm supposed to talk again. I'm shouting. I should share my screen. It's not showing. That's the problem. Sorry, I want to share the screen, but it's not showing. So that was why I sent it to you earlier. I don't know if it's an issue with my laptop. Okay. So the convectional current, kindly keep quiet so that you can hear what I'm saying. Now, the convectional current is convectional rainfall occurs when you have high temperature during the day, and then warm air rises.
You said no call.
And wow, it cools and falls as orographic factors. Orographic rain occur when rain-bearing wind is forced to ascend an obstruction like a highland. So the warm air rises, condenses, and falls as rain. Who is the person talking? Can you please unmute, mute your phones and listen? If you are not ready to participate, please, you can log out. It's not compulsory. Why are you distracting other people?
Sorry, ma'am.
Now, we have looked at the types of rainfall we have. I said we have all. It is not uniform. Rainfall is not uniformly distributed. Rainfall is not uniformly distributed across Africa. And
Hello, my name is
rainfall is not uniformly distributed across Africa. And the amount of rainfall, volume of rain, reduces as one moves further away from the coast. Remember, the rain-bearing winds is the tropical maritime air mass that comes from the oceans. So it means that since the rain-bearing winds comes into Africa from the oceans, those areas that are closer to the coast will receive more rain than areas that are far from the coast. For example, Niger Delta in Nigeria, Lagos in Nigeria receives more rain than Kano. Okay, then there are some areas in the inland locations that are far from the coast that also receive high rainfall due to orographic effects. Areas and the highland areas like Kenya Highlands and Jos Plateau receive high rainfall. Then we have what is called the rain shadow areas. The rain shadow areas, for example, the Kenya section of the eastern branch of the Rift Valley is a rain. Then we also have the dry enclaves, areas that are dry. They are along the coast. They are expected to have high rainfall, but it is dry. Why are those areas dry? That is along the coast of West Africa, for example, the dry Accra belt. Those areas are dry because of local factors. Local factors, that's the upwelling of ocean currents, and then the southwest wind blow in parallel direction. The southwest wind blow in parallel direction and then divert the rain-bearing winds of that area. So since the rain-bearing winds cannot get there, the place will be dry. Then we also have the scanty rainfall is received in the Sahara and Namib deserts. The Sahara and Namib deserts have low rainfall. And then the length of the rainy season also decreases as we move inland from the coast. That means when we say length of the rainy season, how many months does the rainy season last? Those number of months reduce as we move further from the coast. For example, in Lagos State now, in Lagos, Niger Delta, they will have higher number of months of rainy season, maybe 7 months, thereabout. And then in the interior, it will be lower than that. Then some areas have 2 maximal rainfall. What do we mean by maximal rainfall? There are 2 periods when they receive maximum rainfall. That is 2 peak periods of high rainfall in a year. For example, you have such areas on the coast and interior of West Africa and areas around Lake Victoria. Okay, whereas some places receive they have one maximum rainfall regime, like northwest of Kenya. And like northwest of Kenya. Then We also have, so generally, high rainfall supports more vegetation. That means areas that have high rainfall. Remember, we said temperature is high throughout the year, and most of Africa have high temperature. So what varies mainly is rainfall, and so that determines the vegetation of an area. So naturally, we'll expect that areas that have high rainfall, we definitely have more vegetation and more water supply compared with areas that have low rainfall. And I said low rainfall is not evenly distributed throughout the year. There's seasonal variation, and there's also daily variation. That means in the seasons, wet season, you have more rain, dry season, you have less rain. And then daily distribution also varies. For example, it's rained, on which day did it rain now? In Ibadan. Today is what? Today is Monday. When did it rain last in your own area in Ibadan? Or wherever you are? Yes?
Yesterday.
Yesterday in Lagos. Okay, good. So,
on Sunday, in the morning of Sunday.
sorry? So today it has not rained in Ibadan. So the daily distribution is also important. It's an important factor, particularly to farmers, is important. And now let's look at the climatic regions in Africa. The climatic regions in Africa. We have several climatic regions: the tropical humid, that is also called equatorial wet climate that has double rainfall. We have the tropical wet and dry, that is the savanna region that has warm summer. We have the semi-arid or low latitude steppe. We have hot deserts, dry summer subtropical, that is the Mediterranean climate. We have the humid subtropical, marine tropical climate, that is also called the tropical highlands. And then the dry winter subtropical. You find this in the warm temperate highlands. Now I want to discuss each of them, the characteristics of each of these climatic zones. Now, first, the tropical humid, or what is called the equatorial wet. If you open your atlas again to page 55, the climatic regions, you find that in page 55. And on the map of Africa showing the climatic regions, the tropical humid climate is represented by dark green color. It's represented by dark green color. It's represented by dark green color. I have on your LMS page, I have attached a document for you to download. You will see the climatic regions in that document on Africa, climate of Africa. You will see it there. So in case you don't have an atlas. Now, the tropical humid is experienced over large parts of equatorial Africa, that is around the equator, and Congo Basin. You see that in the Congo Basin, and Congo Basin, and also along the Guinea coast. That is where you have this climatic zone. And it's also called the tropical rainforest in the eastern section. Now, in this zone, you have high temperature. Temperature is high. Rainfall is also high. And there's no dry season. There's no dry season. Remember that these characteristics of each climatic zone we are discussing now is the characteristics over a long period of time. But in recent years, climate change has altered these characteristics. So we'll talk about that. But this is the basic characteristics of each of these climatic zones. But of course, you may have variations now due to climate change, because climate change has led to high rainfall where there was unusually low, usually low rainfall. Then you now have drought in some places where there used to be high rainfall. You now have drought in some places. So all that is due to climate change. But these are the major characteristics. That's why we are still discussing these major characteristics. So it may have been altered due to climate change. Now, this tropical humid has a zone, as I said earlier, has high temperature and high rainfall without dry season. That means expected that rain falls throughout the year. So two maximum rainfall regime is experienced because of the movement of the ITCZ. Okay, movement of the ITCZ, and then the high